From the pandemic to protests, we all know these are unprecedented times. None of us could have imagined this. And when Milwaukee County Sheriff Ernell Lucas took office just last year, neither could he. In over 4 decades in law enforcement, he feels this is one of the most challenging times. Well, tonight, his perspective is at times refreshing, but it's also surprising. These days, he spends most of his time in uniform.
These are my people. This is my community.
But it's safe to say Milwaukee County Sheriff Ernell Lucas won't forget the first time he was approached by an officer in uniform as he walked to the store to get his grandmother groceries.
I rolled down his window, never got out of his car and said, "Hey, young man, you stole a woman's purse." And I said, "No, sir, I didn't. I'm going to that store on the corner here with a note and $20.
He was 12 years old, targeted, profiled because he's black. How would you have reacted? How do you think he did? His answer may come as a surprise.
And it was in that moment that that officer sped away. But it was also in that moment that I knew what it was that I wanted to do. For a young man like myself, growing up here in the central city of Milwaukee, it was something that made an indelible impression on me.
So much so that right after he graduated from Rufus King High School, he entered the police academy. His first day on the job, you will never believe who he ran into.
I encountered that very police officer that I saw as a young man. And I went up to him and asked him, "Do you know who I am?" And we had a conversation. I said, "It's because of you that I joined this profession."
It's a career that has spanned more than 40 years.
Respect yourself.
There have been good days.
Well, it was fun. It was fun.
And bad.
To think that you can get anything you want by putting on a gun.
But none like what's gone on since the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. When you first saw that video, what did you think?
Oh, it shocks your conscience to think that any individual had no regard for the humanity of another person. For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we watched an individual's life taken away from him.
What do you do to turn this around?
We have our work cut out for us, without a doubt. We have a lot of work to do to restore that trust with the community.
What about chokeholds and some of these more aggressive tactics to contain a suspect? Do you think they should be done away with?
Without a doubt. It's been taught for years that that's not an appropriate use of force.
Lucas says it all starts with training and accountability.
If we're not providing the proper supervision out in the field on a daily basis at the roll calls, giving them that guidance and that nurturing, again, we're only setting them up to fail.
He'd also like to see more officers who look like him and the members of the community they serve. How do you convince, say, a young African-American kid this is what you should do when there's all this hostility? How do you break through that?
This is our community, and we don't want to see our community tore down, burnt up. If we don't want to see that, then it's incumbent upon us to want to be that gap in between.
He emphasizes getting back to the basics, using lessons his grandmother taught him. A woman who moved to Milwaukee from Jasper, Alabama, to raise Lucas and his 2 older brothers after his mother passed away when he was just 11. That's why he wants to be a guardian for the community he grew up in and is so richly invested.
I look around these communities and I see families. I don't see boarded up buildings and dilapidated homes. I see families that I knew, that I grew up with, kids that I played on the playground here with, and that's what I see. If we all get in the room, talk about what it is that we want moving forward out of this, I think we can move forward and find a new norm, if you will, and move forward in addressing some of the disparities in housing and the disparities in jobs, the disparities in education. I'm confident that we can do that.
I asked Sheriff Lucas about the recent call to defund police departments. He said if that does happen, he would like to see those funds used to improve education, create jobs and social services, and to invest in communities where the help is needed the most. I got to tell you, he's so positive and upbeat. It was a pleasure hearing his perspective.